Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.
Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner preview show with me, your host, Harry Symeou, coming to you a little bit later in the day than usual. Mikel Arteta was due to give his press conference this morning, and I figured there was no point really in recording the preview prior to that. And then I got caught up with a few things in the afternoon, just family stuff, taking care of the kids and doing a bit of running around for them. So that's led to me coming to you live actually quite a bit later than I sort of originally anticipated. But thank you for being here. Really, really appreciate it. Good to see so many of you with us live in the chat. That really, really is amazing to see, particularly when we break the schedule, particularly when we come to you at a completely random time like we have today. It's great to see that people are still jumping on. Before we dive into today's content, and we've got quite a bit to unpack. We're going to unpack Mikel Arteta's press conference. We're going to bring you the latest team news. We're going to discuss Gabriel Jesus' return to fitness. We're going to talk about the significance of this weekend's game. I'll pick my starting 11. I'd love to hear from you guys in the live chat too. I'll share with you a prediction, and we're going to discuss Thomas Tuchel's decision to leave Miles Lewis-Skelly out of the England squad for the final international break of the year. So yeah, we'll get into all of that, take a few of your thoughts and a few of your questions from the live chat as well. So don't go anywhere. But before we dive into the crux of the content, if you haven't done so already, if you're with us on YouTube, leave us a like on the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you leave us a review. And if you'd like to go one further in supporting the pod, meaning that you get bonus additional content after every single game, the next bit will be with you guys on Sunday, then visit the Patreon page. The link is in the description below. If you fancy scanning this very cool QR code in the top corner of the screen, you can get to it that way as well. For those of you that are watching, if you're listening though, the link is in the description. For less than the price of a cup of coffee a month, you get additional content. Plus you get access to every single pod that we do completely ad-free, which I know to people is a pretty big deal. Plus you get to be part of our Patreon community and you can chat with other patrons and directly to me as well. Okay, let's get into it, shall we? And let's start with Mikel Arteta's press conference, the press conference that he gave today at London Colney. I was in attendance today, and I've got to be completely honest, and I've got no problem in saying this, right? Driving up to London Colney today, I couldn't figure out what I was going to ask him. I literally couldn't. I was on my way. I was in the car, and I was thinking, what am I going to ask today? Because as I've said to you guys before, depending on where you are in terms of the order, and you don't always know what that order looks like while you're on your way there, you kind of have an idea. Like I know that Sky will go before me. I know that Premier League Productions will go before me. I know that TalkSport will go before me. Do you get what I mean? Like I've got an idea, but I don't know exactly when I'll get the opportunity to ask a question. Very, very often you turn up at a press conference with like a couple of really good questions in mind, and then something so similar has been asked already by the time it gets to you that you've got to rethink and you've got to come up with something on the spot. I asked Mikel Arteta today about two things. I asked him about the significance of this fixture, and I'll let you know what he said on that, and we'll kind of dissect his answer a little bit. Just because obviously, you know, every game is a big game and feels like a must win, and every game carries a lot of weight and significance. But given that we're going into what's a natural break in the season with the internationals coming up, but also given that Manchester City meet Liverpool, does this one have something extra about it? Does it have an extra importance? And I wanted to kind of take Mikel's temperature on that, because for me, it does. For me, this feels like a really big game. It feels like a huge opportunity to lay down a marker. I think that's how I put it to him. Does it feel like a big opportunity to kind of lay down a marker, given the natural break and the fact that Man City and Liverpool are facing one another? So we'll react to his response in a minute. And I also asked him a question I was hoping he'd sort of bite at. He didn't bite at it as much as I would have liked, but it was a question about Granit Xhaka. I asked Mikel Arteta if, given the fact he moved Granit Xhaka's position and changed his role, and that led to us seeing a much better version of the player, I asked him whether he'd agree that prior to him taking over as manager, Granit Xhaka had been misprofiled. And we'll get into his response on that a little bit later on as well. Right, let's start with the main stuff. Any team news, any injuries? Mikel Arteta said, no news. We remain the same, and there's nobody new that can join the squad. So all the same. So basically, it's as you were in terms of the fitness of all of our players. I always say take these things from Mikel Arteta with a pinch of salt. He was then asked a little bit later on, and I'm going to jump around a little bit in terms of the order that we cover things in here. But he was asked afterwards, just to confirm that Odegaard, Havertz, Madueke, Gyökeres, and Martinelli are not available. And then he said, I cannot confirm all of that, but you are not far off. And I know a lot of people, since he said that, have been like, well, which one of them's coming back? I don't think any of them will be back for the weekend. I think this was Mikel Arteta trying to be a little bit cryptic. I think it was Mikel Arteta trying to have a little bit of fun, to be honest, because later on in the press conference, he sort of backtracks, rose back a little bit on this line. So, don't get too carried away. I think it's kind of as you were. And I think when we pick the team for the game up at the Stadium of Light, we're going to do it on that basis. We're going to do it based on what we know rather than that sort of speculation, because I don't think that any of those guys are going to make it, to be honest with you. He was also then asked if those guys could be back after the international break. He said, some of them, maybe all of them, I don't know. There are a lot of things that have to happen in the next 2 weeks, and everything has to be perfect. But I think we'll be close with most of them to being in a really strong position. So that's obviously good news. He was asked about Gabriel Jesus. Now, you must have seen it yesterday on social media. Arsenal put out a video of Gabriel Jesus in training. He's back training with his teammates. I think he said at the end of the video that this was his second day out on the grass with the boys. He said, Mikel Arteta, that is, it's about making steps day by day in different surroundings. He's been doing everything on his own, and now he's got very competitive players around him. So let's see how he copes with that. But he's full of energy. I love the reaction of all his teammates when he first joined us again. It's great to have him back. So Mikel Arteta is clearly pleased to have Gabi Jesus back. I'm pleased that Gabi Jesus is nearly available and ready for selection, because I think that he is just something different to what we have in those attacking areas. Gabriel Jesus, for me, is a box of tricks. And when we first signed him, he made a huge difference. Huge difference. And okay, tactically, we've evolved, we've developed, the game has changed. And we talk a lot about long throws and direct football and physical duels and all the rest of it. And I think there's a few interesting articles going around today about how the Premier League has changed in that sense and all the rest of it. But I think Gabi Jesus is something that we don't have much of in our squad. And we've missed him. We've missed him dearly. If you think back to when he picked up this injury, this latest one, he was just starting to find his form again. He was just starting to look like the Gabi Jesus that we brought in from Manchester City a few years prior. I still think he has a role to play at Arsenal. What that role looks like exactly, I'm not sure. Do I think he's going to start week in, week out? No. Do I think he's going to start semi-regularly? Honestly, no. But I think Gabi Jesus is going to be someone that Mikel turns to try and unlock teams. And I think if we're being realistic, it's the 7th of November now. I can't see him being available for selection before the end of the month. And obviously, we've got the international break. We return from the international break. Then we've got the North London derby. And I suppose the question is how is he going to cope in training now over the next few weeks? And are we going to get to a place where we feel comfortable to throw him into a competitive environment? That's what we're working on now. That's what the next step is. Some people were suggesting that because this video had been put out, not by Gabi Jesus himself, but by the club, that meant that he was very close, actually, and that he is, or could at least be, depending on a late call, part of the squad and part of the group. for the game against Sunderland. I just don't see that as being realistic at all. So I'm pleased that he's back. I'm pleased that he's back working with the boys. The next few weeks are going to be really important in terms of getting him up to speed. Some have suggested that, we should flog him in January, that we should be looking to get a fee in for Gabriel Jesus. I actually think that Gabriel Jesus has a role to play at Arsenal this season. I can't specify exactly what that role is going to look like because I just don't know. But I really do believe that he has a value and he has the ability to impact. Plus, coming back from this injury, who's going to buy him in January? Like most clubs, any clubs that would be willing to sort of lay money down on the table for him, they're probably going to look at it and they're going to go, yeah, let's see how he goes over the next few months. And if he looks fit and sharp again, then maybe we take a punt in the summer. But I can't see anyone investing significant money into the signing of Gabriel Jesus when right now he's still got it all to prove. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But as I say, love the player. Think he's fantastic. Think he's got so much going for him. And I really do think he offers something different in attack for us. And it's not just what he can do playing at centre forward, which is a position that right now we're short in, but he can play left. He can play right as well. And you wouldn't, be against throwing Gabriel Jesus on as a second striker either, because his dribbling ability is amazing. His ability to create chaos is amazing. Is he the most accomplished finisher in the world? Probably not. But he's got a really good rounded skill set, and I think that makes him an asset. And particularly this season when we've got more and more tools, and it's about now for Mikel Arteta, I think, picking the right tools to do the right jobs, and getting that right will be, I think, decisive in whether or not we win trophies, because there's no doubt that we've got depth. There's no doubt that we've got quality. There's no doubt that we've got options. It's just, can you manage those options in the right way? Can you utilize those options in the best possible way? And can you get the maximum in terms of results? And Gabriel Jesus will just add another weapon to Mikel Arteta's armory, won't he? Big hello to Pigeonhead, who says, first time here, liked and subbed. Welcome, mate. Thank you for being here. Really, really do appreciate it, and hope you enjoy the show. Okay. What else did Mikel have to say of real significance? Let me talk about the two questions that I asked him then. There was a lot of Granit Xhaka loving, as there would be, because, of course, this is a big deal. Granit Xhaka, who ended up becoming a bit of a cult hero in the end. He kind of went from villain to hero. He kind of went full cycle during that period of time. And I don't know about others, and we discussed this in a lot more detail on yesterday's pod. I was gutted when he left. I felt like we'd finally got to a place where we appreciated him. He understood us. He had a manager that was utilizing him in the right way, that was getting the maximum out of him in terms of performances. We were ready to go again for the Premier League title. And there was Granit Xhaka, having come through all the shit, basically ready to throw the towel in and go and play elsewhere. Now, in the end, that move that he made to buy Leverkusen, it proved to be a great move, right? Because he went, he won the league, he won the cup, he did it unbeaten, and he was a massive part of Xabi Alonso's very, very successful side. But there was a part of me at that point that felt like it made no sense. You'd stayed when you probably shouldn't have. Yet, when you were now firmly a favorite and firmly sort of, part of the furniture, I guess, and someone that everybody really kind of loved and appreciated, you were then willing to make the move. It didn't really make sense to me at the time. And Mikel Arteta, answered some questions about Granit Xhaka throughout the press conference. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to just highlight some of the questions that I put to him, because I'll let the people who asked the other ones, highlight theirs. When it comes to the game against Sunderland, on the Arsenal website, they say they've sort of bracketed what he said, or they've titled what he said, subtitled it, if you like, with on the importance of our match against Sunderland. That wasn't how I framed it. The way I framed it was, I know you want to win every game, and I know you set out to win every game, but with the natural break that we have, with the international break just around the corner, and with the fact that City and Liverpool are playing each other, does this game take on more significance? Do you feel that? Do you feel like this is the opportunity to lay down a marker in the title race? And he said, every weekend is crucial. There are weekends for other possible results or for other games, and maybe they're a little bit more important. But at the end, you just need to conquer a certain amount of points if you want to achieve our goals. And 3 points against Sunderland tomorrow is going to be really tough, and we're going to have to really earn them. So he kind of gave me a little bit in terms of saying, look, maybe there are some weekends where it's a little bit more important. But it sounds to me like Mikel Arteta isn't really obsessing on sort of results elsewhere or things that are outside of his remit of control. I think what he's trying to do is instill a mentality of, if you go out there and you win football matches and you put whatever amount of points it is on the board, that will be enough. You do not need to spend the entire season thinking about what the opposition are doing, worrying about who they're playing against, worrying about how they're performing. Being in the position that Arsenal are today, we've earned the right to just focus on ourselves. We're not chasing. When you're chasing, you're reliant on other results because you need teams to drop points. You need results to go your way. Obviously, you need to capitalize on those moments, but you are looking elsewhere essentially, and you're hoping for stuff. In this case, in this instance, when we are leading the way that we are, just focus on getting the points on the board. And I think that was the kind of message that he was maybe trying to convey there. I asked him if he would agree that prior to him coming in and sort of adjusting Granit Xhaka's position, if he would agree that the player was misprofiled. Because I don't know about you guys, but my view is very much that Granit Xhaka, can play as a deep-lying player, has played as a 6 quite a bit, does it now for Sunderland, has done it for many other clubs over the years and has done it very successfully. But in our system at the time, and given how adventurous we were maybe with the fullbacks and given some of the other sort of structural, sort of characteristics of Wenger's team and then Emery's team, Granit Xhaka was exposed. And so Mikel came in and said, no, you know what? You're not going to be my 6. You're going to be one of my 8s. He sort of came in and he kind of reassessed Granit Xhaka and went, this is what you're good at, and this is what maybe you're not so good at. So I want to play you in a role that will allow you to flaunt what you can do and that will protect you from being exposed for maybe what you can't do. And I talked about this quite a bit on yesterday's pod, so I don't want to repeat myself in terms of how that change happened, what it went on to achieve in terms of the result that it gave us regarding Xhaka's performances and all the rest of it. But when I asked Arteta, I beg your pardon, if he'd agree that prior to him, Xhaka had been misprofiled, I sort of looked at the look in his face, and I think what it was that he did not want to be seen to be criticizing Unai Emery or Arsene Wenger. And so I think that's why he kind of danced around the answer a little bit. He said no, so he doesn't agree with me on Xhaka being misprofiled, because when we signed him, it was for the right reason, because he was playing a different role. He was excellent. When you saw him playing for the national team and with Leverkusen in a deeper role, he did very well, as well as the necessity of the team or the understanding of the manager or the coach about a player or the chemistry that he can create around other players as well. And we believed that Granit's position had to be modified. It brought him a challenge as well, but I think that was quite positive for him to say, I'm going to show everyone that I can do it. And Granit needs that as well in his personality. So yeah, I think, I think that he was misprofiled. I just don't think Mikel Arteta wanted to say it. Guitar Solo says, he didn't say this is what you're not so good at, H. You are lying. Arteta basically told you that Xhaka evolved and he got new skills. He did not dance around the answer. You just don't agree. No, I'm not. I didn't say that he said to me that he told Granit Xhaka, this is what you're good at and what you're not so good at. I said that I'd imagine that when he was talking to Granit Xhaka, when it came to assessing him and deciding whether they were going to modify his role, as he put it, that conversation may well have happened behind closed doors. Or it might have even been that Mikel Arteta in his own head was thinking, okay, What's Granit Xhaka good at and what's Granit Xhaka not so good at? I didn't say that Mikel Arteta said that. Mikel Arteta's answer is right here on the screen in front of you for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, which I've just read out word for word. So just to clarify that. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, look, he says no in terms of him being misprofiled in the past. Again, I think that's probably out of respect for some of the previous managers, and I think that's probably Mikel Arteta just wanting to avoid an additional headline around Granit Xhaka going into this match. Because if he said yes, and obviously his belief was yes, otherwise Granit Xhaka would have stayed playing as the 6. We wouldn't have signed Thomas Partey, and we wouldn't have modified the team the way that we did. So yeah, I think that's I think he obviously feels one way, but feels he needs to say something different. That's just my opinion on it. Anyway, okay. There was loads of chat about the Xhaka reunion on the pod yesterday, so I don't want to go over that anymore. Go through the press conference transcript. You can find it on arsenal.com, or you can watch it back. The entire press conference that is on Haters TV as well. So go and check that out if you wish to. Right, we're going to take a really short pause, and when we come back, we are going to start discussing the starting 11, what we can expect from the weekend's game, and I'll share with you before we wrap up my prediction as well. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe.
That's right. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. The significance of this match. This match is huge. This match is huge. I don't care how many people try and play it down. I don't care how many people say, yeah, but, as long as you put X amount of points on the board, that's fine. No. This is an opportunity to deal a huge psychological blow to one of, if not both, of Manchester City and Liverpool this weekend. Because I know at the start of the season, this wouldn't have been the case. You wouldn't have looked at Sunderland and gone, that is a game where I think my title rivals will slip up. You wouldn't have looked at it in that way. There's no denying that. Like, that's the reality of the situation. But such has been their start to this campaign. They've conceded the second fewest amount of goals in the Premier League this season behind us. They've picked up unbelievable results. They're probably halfway, if not slightly more, towards safety, securing safety in terms of the points total. Back in the day, people used to say, 40 points was the magic mark. I don't even think you need that now, if I'm being honest with you. So, they're in a great place. And now people are looking at this fixture and they're going, this is a game that Arsenal could potentially slip up in, drop points in, whatever. But when you think about what's going on at the Etihad on Sunday, and I'm missing that game, by the way, and I'm so glad I'm missing it because I don't have to go through, the sort of the emotions of that one. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to watch it back later on because I'm working on another game. I'm working on a Serie A game. So that means that, I'll miss that entirely. I'll miss the whole thing. So fine. But if we do our job, I don't care. And this is what it comes back to. I was talking about this a few minutes ago. Mikel Arteta is trying to instill the kind of mentality of we do our thing and you don't worry about everybody else. You just do your thing. And you can only really instill that mentality from a position of strength. And we are in a position of strength right now. You can't say that to a team that are, chasing, because no matter how many results they get, no matter how good it goes for them, if the team that they're behind is picking up those exact same results, whether you win every game, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because if they do it too, you're done. And ultimately, that's something that's out of your control. In this instance, in this scenario, you are in control. You just have to keep going. You just have to keep putting points on the board. You just have to keep picking up results. And that is, I think, something that Mikel Arteta is trying to use psychologically. Because really, I know we've been in front before, but this is the first time ever that everybody's main sort of prediction right now is, Arsenal are going to win the league. Like, Arsenal are going to cruise to it. Arsenal are going to do this and do that. We've always been in the race. We've always been in the mix. No one really truly believed, I don't think, prior to this season, even when we were in front, that it was a foregone conclusion and it was a done deal. Whereas this time, that's how people feel. So there's been a shift in terms of the outside opinion. And I think Mikel Arteta is trying to use that shift as something that just changes the dynamic psychologically for his players. And that means doing something different. And doing something different is a good thing when you've done something in the past that hasn't worked. Your sort of psyche as a player, your mindset of sort of, how you cope and how you move forward, you would prefer to hear new ideas. You would prefer to hear new things rather than hearing the same old. Well, we did that last time. It didn't work. Well, no, because the situation is not the same this time. It's very, very different. Let's manage it right. Let's manage it effectively. So I think this game is massive in that if both of them drop points at the weekend, my word, that is unbelievable as long as we do our job. If one of them loses, then that is a massive blow to whichever one of those two teams it is that falls. And whichever team wins, for us, it don't really matter, does it? Because we've still got a cushion there that, will remain intact again, as long as we do our bit, as long as we do our job. Let's talk a little bit about the starting 11 then for the weekend. I sort of talked a little bit yesterday about the decision that Mikel Arteta has to make with regards to the centre forward position, because I really do look at it and I think, I like Mikel Merino for the way he's able to finish, the way he pops up, the way he scores goals. But I do worry that having him at centre forward means we've got to play slightly differently and it takes something away from our game. Equally, against a very strong, powerful, physical Sunderland side, Leandro Trossard, who's probably my next option in terms of playing at centre forward, that doesn't really work for me. Some have mentioned Andre Harry-Mananous. I don't think he's ready for that. And therefore, I've picked the team that I have, and I'm going to share that with you now. And I want to get your thoughts and I want to get your takes on this. So I'm going David Raya in goal. He's been in outstanding form all season. And there's just no reason to make any changes there. My back four, I think, is easy as well. I've gone with Timber. At right back, I've gone with Saliba and Gabriel. And I'm actually going to bring Ricardo Calafiori back into the starting 11. In the midfield, again, it's pretty straightforward for me. Martin Zubimendi, be great to have him back in the side. Declan Rice, who's playing brilliantly at the moment. He was outstanding, wasn't he, against Burnley last time out. And then I'm going to put Ebere Eze in there as well. On the left, I'm going to go Trossard. Of course, there's still no Martinelli. There's still no Madueke. On the right, I'm going to go Xhaka. And up front, I'm going to go Mikel Merino. Now, yesterday, it probably sounded like I wasn't too keen on the idea of Mikel Merino playing up front. And I've got to be honest, cards on the table, I'm still not. There's still something about Mikel Merino up front that doesn't really work for me. When he gets chances, he takes them, and you cannot question his versatility, because he plays that centre forward role better than a lot of natural centre forwards do. His finishing abilities is brilliant. His composure in front of goal, because it's not just about having the ability to execute certain types of finishes. One of the arts of being a striker is figuring out very quickly in real time which type of finish is required. But I think the reason I've gone with this team in the end, with Merino up front, is because if I was to shuffle the pack a little bit, my personnel would be the same. So if I was going to play around with this a little bit, I'd probably have Mikel Merino in the midfield, along with Rice and Zubimendi. I'd stick Eze out on the left-hand side, and I'd use Trossard through the middle. That is the alternative for me. Well, if I can't make my mind up with regards to who I want to start at centre forward, I'm happy to make sure that I've got the same players on the pitch, because my alternative involves the same players. And so my view and my thoughts on this are quite simple. If we start with Mikel Merino up front and that is not working, in game, we can shuffle the pack. in game, we can drop Mikel Merino deeper. We can stick Eza out on the left-hand side, and we can ask Trossard to move into a more central position. And we're not changing anything. We're not even using a substitution. We literally would be just rearranging the pack as it is. So I think this lineup, and I know we've got limited options in those attacking areas, which makes it, to some degree, an easier decision. But I think that personnel is the right personnel. The question is, how are you going to use that personnel? And I think that's where Mikel Arteta is going to have to be really alert, really alive, really focused on what's happening in front of him and make those decisions in game accordingly. Enzo Maresca was complaining about Sunderland playing in a certain way that caught his team off guard. Arne Slot's been complaining about certain teams playing in a different way when they come up against his guys, giving him different problems and different issues. Ultimately, that's modern football. That is good management. And where I really believe in Mikel now, maybe more than I did in years gone by, is that his in-game management is just so much more effective. I feel like with experience, he's been able to identify problems and chinks in the opposition's armor earlier than he used to. And that gives you time and the sort of foresight to be able to fix these things and get your team the result and the outcome that they want. Some people have suggested playing Ethan Nwaneri in the false 9 position. I like him as a finisher, but I worry that he's going to have the same problems that Trossard would, which is that in a sea of big Sunderland defenders, he's going to get lost. But Nwaneri is obviously an option from the bench, and I'm sure, all being well, he'll get on at some point as well. So, yeah, not massively worried about the team because, as I say, in terms of that personnel, I think we've got everything that we need. It's just how we tweak that shape and that system, and it's how we utilize those players. I think that's going to make the difference on the day. In terms of my prediction then, and I'll wrap up with my prediction before I take some of your questions from the live chat. So if you've got any questions, get them in. My prediction is an Arsenal win. I'm going to go for the famous old 1-0 to the Arsenal. Just wanted to touch on one other point as well. Miles Lewis-Skelly left out of the England squad today, and I can imagine that's probably quite demoralizing for him. And I know he's been a part of the England setup quite a bit lately. And Thomas Tuchel made the point that if he wasn't playing, he might not be in the squad. He sort of dropped that hint, didn't he? And people were worried about that. Let me just say, and we know that Lewis Skelly's got great people around him. We know that at Arsenal, they look after him very, very well. I just think, if I was sat down with Miles Lewis Skelly, my message would be, dust yourself off, mate, and go again. Because you are good enough. You are in an unbelievable place for someone of your age. You've come on leaps and bounds over the last year. And this is a manager who has very specific preferences, just doing him. And he's left Jude Bellingham out before, and he's left others out. He's left Phil Foden out again, which I can't understand, because it feels like Phil Foden's come back into form. He's picked Bournemouth's Alex Scott. Now, it's not that I don't like him, but is he better than Phil Foden? I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, my point is that Miles Lewis-Skelly should be able to, and I'm sure he can, just kind of zoom out. Look at what he's achieved in the last year. And this omission from the England squad should not in any way, shape or form damage his confidence or self-belief. I don't think it will, because I think he's a really confident lad. I think he's quite resolute and resilient in that sense, which is great. But I just wanted to touch on that, because you see things like that. And sometimes you do wonder, don't you, how's that going to affect our player? What's that going to do to him psychologically? Ultimately, he's done nothing wrong. When he's played well. When he's had opportunities, he's taken them with both hands. And I think he's a really great prospect. And I think Thomas Tuchel would be silly not to take him to the World Cup. So, yeah, let's see how that develops over the next few months. But, yeah, I think Arsenal will be in Miles's ear saying, nothing to do with you, mate. Thomas Tuchel and his odd selections again. Right, let's take some of your questions. Let's take some of your thoughts then, shall we, from the live chat. Jay says, hey, Harry, what position did you or do you play? I can tell you it is did I play because I'm definitely retired now. The last time I played in a proper football match, no, this is a lie actually, because I then joined the team after that, but barely made it through the season because the knee injury was causing me problems. Obviously, I was a lot heavier at the time as well, which certainly added more strain to the knee than it used to when I was much younger and fitter and sharper, and all the rest of it. But I played as a centre forward. Centre forward was my position. Sometimes I played from the flanks as well, but I was mainly a centre forward. What else have we got in the live chat? Samus says, I'm going 2-0 to us. I know we will rotate the team a lot once everyone has returned, but what do you see as our first attacking options? And do we add to that in January? Saka's the one that's nailed on. Everything else can change. It can be Martinelli or Trossard. It can be Gyökeres or Havertz, or even Jesus when he comes back into the picture. It could be Madueke on the left. I think the only one that is guaranteed to play whenever he's available and fit, it's Saka for me. And should we add to it in Jan? No, I think if we can get those players back fit, we'll be fine. But it's just getting them back fit. And also, there's no problem, by the way, with people questioning my opinion or questioning what I'm saying in the chat box. I responded earlier because you'd said that I'd said something in a totally different context to what I'd said. Like I didn't say that Arteta said that. And then you said that I said Arteta said that and I'd got it wrong and that I was lying. So I just wanted to clarify, but challenging and questioning my opinion. No, there's no problem with that at all. No problem with that at all. Do you really believe that other teams fear Arsenal, or are we just a challenge? They keep failing. It is strange how we keep winning, yet somehow I do not feel like we are feared. I don't feel we're feared like some of the teams of the past have been, in that like they're going to come out and they're going to blow you away. But I do think there is a feeling of inevitability around Arsenal right now, that when you're pushing against them, when you're fighting against them and you're not getting what you want in terms of a goal or things going your way, that fear of them being inevitable, that fear of them going up the other end with a set piece and breaking the deadlock and winning the game 1-0 and stealing it away from you, that can play on your mind in certain game states and at certain points in football matches. So I don't think it's a fear just yet, because I don't think we blow teams away. I think it's a fear of our inevitability is how I would put it. Hacker says, feelings on Mamdani being a Gooner communist mayor of New York. I know nothing about this Mamdani geezer. Yeah. I can't comment on that. I know nothing about him. Nothing at all. Yogan says, do you think other teams are worried that we have this lead with 5 main attacking players out? And what's going to happen once they're back? Well, I hope once they're back, that improves us going forward. I hope once they're back, that shows, that when we have come away from games feeling sort of slightly underwhelmed with our attacking performance, that was just, because we were missing those players. And actually, just by default, having those guys back will make things better and put us in a better position. That's my hope. Rob says, Harry, don't you think it's ridiculous that people are calling for Gabriel Jesus to be sold in January? I don't think it's ridiculous, because I think it's fair to take the view that coming back from the 2 injuries that he has, and given the recruitment that we've done of Victor Gyökeres and, the expectation that Havertz will be fit and available again, I don't think it's ridiculous to think that he could be surplus to requirements. But I don't think you will get anywhere close to what Gabriel Jesus is worth in January, because people looking from the outside in, they will want to be sure that he's over the problem. They will want to be sure that he is in a good place physically before they invest any money into the signing. And so if you can't get top dollar in January, which we won't be able to get, then why let him go? Why not utilize him? Why not bring his experience into the fold? A player that has been there, done it. Why not utilize that? Why not try and get something out of him? Why not have him as a part of the group? Because as I said already, he is a supremely talented footballer. He's got a very different skill set to so many of the other players that we have. It just doesn't make sense to let him go on the cheap. Now, I know, relatively speaking, we're going to let him go on the cheap anyway, because a player with this injury record is going to go on the cheap just for that alone. But my point is, if you don't stand to gain much in January, like if you could sell Gabriel Jesus, but that freed up the salary or the wages to go and get a player that you think would make a bigger impact and a bigger difference, fine. Fine. But right now, I can see him bringing something to the table. I really can. And I just think that, I think that people have short memories. I think that when you consider the impact that Gabriel Jesus had when he first arrived at the football club, I think he deserves at the very minimum the respect that a top player deserves. And if he comes back into the fold and he looks a couple of yards off it and he doesn't look sharp and he's not doing anything and he's not impacting, and you want to say, look, yeah, this is maybe the end of Gabriel Jesus as an Arsenal player, then fine. But I think he deserves the respect. He deserves to be loved, and he deserves to be brought back into the fold. And then we'll see where we go and how we go from there. Jay says, teams are low, blocking us a lot. I'm starting to think that it plays into our hands as we keep possession until they slip up. Thoughts? Well, we found ways of scoring goals, even when we're facing low blocks. And that is via largely, by and large, set pieces. People come in and playing us with the low blocks, it's a sign of respect, I think. Maybe it's a sign of fear. I know that was discussed. Are we feared? I think there's a little bit of fear, yeah. And as I say, I think that fear comes from our inevitability. But we've got different solutions. We've got different tools. We've got different ways of doing things. And that's what excites me, I think, the most about this Arsenal team. Right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me. Just to reiterate, my prediction is a 1-0 win to the Arsenal. I will see you all very, very soon on another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner Pod. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see you all on Sunday. I won't be with you tomorrow, I don't think. I'm working on the early game in the Premier League, which means I'm going to have to leave the house early and probably won't have time to record any pod. But if there's something to react to, something big, then maybe we'll bring you a bit of instant reaction in audio format only or whatever. We'll see how it goes. I'm not promising, but I'm also not closing the door to it. I'll see you all soon. Have a wonderful weekend. Up the Arsenal. Let's get the 3 points. And then we can sit back on Sunday and just see what happens. Let it all work out, as they say. I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.
Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.